Welcome to the Independent Hustle with your host, Tony.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Independent Hustle podcast. I am your host, Tony.
Josh.
Terry.
We're here live on Spreaker.com and Facebook, straight from the Dan B Community Center. Our guest has various awards such as the National Association of Negro Business and Human Rights Commission Community Service. Let's give it up for our Councilwoman, Sharon Scott.
Oh, thank you.
So Councilwoman, you have the NAACP Living Legend Award, the YWCA Woman of Distinction, and the Daily Press Open Door Award. So just name a few of your awards. Which one is your biggest accomplishment?
Oh my God, that's a big question. I would say they're all equally important because when people recognize you, it's what they saw you doing as opposed to what you think you did. And the Open Door Award, I think, from the Daily Press came from the fact that I've been elected for 17 years, and for the entire 17 years, I've had town hall meetings where people can actually come in and get an open exchange of information. So I think that award was more about transparency. And the Living Legend Award, when I showed up, I told them that most living legends are really old and they're dead. So I told them I don't know how I got here, but I'm a baby legend today. But I think the NAACP probably recognized some of the things I've done past and present because before I was on the city council, I was a journalist. So a lot of people knew my background, and in addition to representing my city, I also try to do what we need for our communities because people can ignore it or not, but Black and brown communities are very important, and sometimes the needs in those communities are different than the entire city. So I've been able to make some impact on the citizens who are disadvantaged, who are Black and brown. So I think therein lies the NAACP award. What was the third one you said?
The third one was the WYCA, Woman of Distinction.
Women of Distinction. What that group does is recognize women who are involved in the community. It could either be public sector or private sector or businesses or whatever. And it was an honor to be recognized with that group of ladies. And I like events that empower women because when you empower the ones who are doing the work now, you're able to empower younger people or others who are not working as hard as we are. And it shows an example of what you can do if you put a little work to it.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks for your questions.
A lot of accolades right there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I've been around for a minute.
It made me a little bit nervous.
Oh, shit.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and bring it all the way back then. So what inspired you to become the woman you are today?
Well, I'm all kind of women here today. If you're talking about elected official, I tell this story all the time. When I first moved to Denby, which was in 1998, I bought a piece of property, and in 2 years, the whole climate had changed in Denby. Most of the shops were closed, businesses were closed. They put paper in the window. It was deplorable looking. And so I called my council person, and he didn't call me back. So then I was a journalist at the time, and I started doing a story on declining property values in the entire city. He still didn't call me back. So I called him a third time. So I told my boss, I said, he doesn't want to do this job. I'm running for that seat. So long story short, I ran for the seat in 2002, and I upseated an incumbent. He had been on the council for 12 years. And at the time, this district that I live in now was 68% white Republican. So I think he took for granted that I wasn't white.
Right.
And that he thought he would be successful at winning, but he wasn't. And then he challenged me in 2006, and I really, I beat him bad. It was like 70-something. Yeah, it was like 77%. So then I pat myself on the back just a little bit. I don't usually pat myself much, but I think that the woman I am now is a combination of things. What my mother instilled in me. She was a very hard worker. She didn't finish high school, no high school education, but she was wise, and she was hard working. She was aggressive, not aggressive, but assertive. We said aggressive, that women y'all think is mean, so we're gonna say assertive. And she was assertive, and what I liked about her was she always did what she said she was gonna do. If there was a job to be done and nobody was doing it, she was going to get it done.
Right.
You know, if it was supposed to be a team working and nobody on the team showed up, she was the team. So I just saw her hard work, her you know, the way she operated, her sense of I guess, responsibility, you know, because that's what leaders do. You take responsibility for whatever your job task is.
Sure,
So,
strong
yeah.
woman.
Oh yeah, she was all that. As far as, you know, showing a good example to her daughters, because I had 5 sisters, so she was a good example.
Now talking about, you know, you said they took you basically for granted because you wasn't white. Now, going through that line, what were the obstacles you had to face, since you are, you know, a person of color, and there's not a lot of people of color in politics. So what were your obstacles that you had to go through to even get to that point, to actually win the race?
Well, actually, it turned out to be a little more simple than I expected. My major obstacle was we didn't have any experience on our campaign team. It was 5 of my friends and I, we did the entire campaign.
Wow.
And what we did was, since we didn't know what to do, we just walked every day and shook hands and talked to people. So, my only obstacle, I believe, would have been raising money, because people didn't know me. I had typically lived near Mercer Boulevard, so I was down further in Newport News. I didn't know a lot of people in this district. As a journalist, I worked on 25th Street downtown, and I worked on 25th Street and on Wickham Avenue. My office was always downtown. So ideally, you would think I would have been more successful running in the South District than I would have up here. So that it took a while for me to make some inroads. Had to find out who the leaders were, you know, and kind of tap into that. And after we had probably campaigned for 3 months, it was coming into the final run, and that's when you could hear the buzz, you could feel the energy. You know, people, my name was everywhere. So anybody said Sharon, they said Scott.
How you keep track of like the voters, or just the whole raising money, and how you actually get to the people? I know you said you shook hands, but like you said, people didn't know you.
Right.
So was that even hard to even really raise money at the end? Like, you know, you as a politician, you want to win a race at the end of the day, but
you want to bring forth change,
right? And if they don't know you, that's going to be a little difficult, you know. So, being that you didn't know people, raising money, what were your how did you go about? Yeah, go about.
Well, I first started with
the strategy.
I started with my family and friends. Called them up, hey, I'm running for office, can I get 100? And so my brothers, I remember expressly, my brothers all gave their 100, and then I started with friends, and after a while, when my name started buzzing in the community, it was easier for me to show up at a business. They were like, oh, I heard of you. So I started with the local businesses, just like going in, like the barber shops and hair salons, you know, and places where we were, because, you know, I was at a disadvantage. And then people eventually started inviting me to civic groups, and like to the American Legion, and I went to the Democratic City Committee, I went to the Republican City Committee. I went everywhere I could go. I just knew that my outcome would be directly tied to my output. Right. So I just kind of got in, went to the churches. In politics, you can go to the black church and they'll let you speak. Right. So I got, you know, connected with some of the churches, and the rest is history. But the first year was my worst raising money, but it's always difficult to raise money for politics. But over the years, after my first term, I didn't have any trouble getting what I need. Right, because of connections. Because of connections, and then a lot of people, they see the value in what I do. Right. So they want me to keep doing it, so they know it takes money to run a campaign. Yeah. But so I've been kind of blessed in that vein, that I've had some supporters who actually rode with me the whole way. So when I call them, they know to get their check.
So, Councilwoman, with this being your 5th term, what are some of the changes you plan on doing to your North District?
Right. Well, it's actually been an interesting 17 years, because before the last couple of years, Denby, you know, the city of Newport News is actually landlocked. We have 6% of land left to develop, and the largest tract is here in my district, which is 600 acres out bordering James City County and York County. And now we've been able to, if you ride up Warwick in Jefferson, you see vacant lots that are nicely cut and manicured. Those belong to the city. So what our Economic Development Authority has done is amass all the extra pieces of land they can in this district, because we need a facelift. I mean, this district has looked like this ever since I've been here. Only thing is now it's cleaner. And so some of the things before this term ago, well, number one is this Denver Community Center that we are actually sitting in right now. It's supposed to have an aquatics component to it, and it hasn't been done, and I'm still trying to galvanize my team so that they would see the value in putting that swimming pool here, water play park, and that's an important component for any community, right? Because any pediatrician will tell you that the brown and black babies, again, they drown in proportionate numbers to other babies. So it will be an opportunity for people to bring their kids here to get swimming lessons or whatever, or just have a good time. But some of the other things, we need to do some infill building. We have the old Kmart building, we tore down the Hills building. So we need to come up with something that makes Denby a little more unique than it is at this time. Right. We're working on aesthetics, of course, always trying to plant trees and trying to keep green space. And I would like to see a lot more opportunities for young people. We're doing a great job. And the one thing that is near and dear to my heart is to get a workforce development center in this district. We have one in the south, and where it's really needed, but we need the same thing up here. So that's on the forefront, and there are so many other things that I would like to see that probably won't happen in this term, because if you know anything about government, everything is tied up in paperwork, and it takes so many signatures to get nowhere.
And I agree with that, yes. The workforce area of it, because I know in my area where I had grew up, that was one of the beginning stages of my job. So I kind of
workforce development.
Yeah, I started out in the workforce. So I think that would be a good opportunity for younger people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Starting out.
Especially because now we have so many young people who actually don't want to go to college, and some of the certificate and certification programs, they actually pay more than us college educated people make. Right. So there is some opportunity to change the paradigm of the entire city if we let what we're doing in one city benefit what's happening in other ends of the city. Then we become this one city that we are talking about here in Newport News. Right. And that was my slogan in 2010, because I could see clearly that the money wasn't being spent across the city, that it was being targeted to certain areas, and I was supporting it. So I supported it because at the time we didn't have any opportunity to do anything in my district, but now we have opportunities. So I'm going to be one of the cheerleaders for what happens for change in this district. And even after I'm not elected, I still live in this district. So you know what? I'll be still down there advocating for us. So I'm trying to get as much as I can done in the next 3 years. But a lot of it is not going to come to fruition. But I'm not going to let it go.
I understand.
Yes.
For those people who are watching live on Facebook and are listening to us on the podcast, I want to kind of give a little background before we continue, asking you questions. We actually met you at an event. We had an event. It was this year, right?
Oh.
The beginning of the year, right?
Beginning of the year,
when
or
the government shut down.
Yes,
the government shut down.
I tell you, time flies. I remember what it was. I remember.
Yeah. So we met you at the government shutdown event. We put it together. It was probably like in a week. We actually came up with the idea. We spoke to Diane, who is the president of the association. We talked to her. She gave us the green light, and then she connected me with you. And one thing I can say is that it was so genuine how when I called you and I got in contact with you, you said, yeah, I'm there. Mm-hmm. You didn't hesitate. You didn't even say no, or let me check my calendar. No, I'll be there. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that a lot of politicians, they're kind of like scared to do, just come to the event, because everything is them. But you were more genuine about it. Once we got in contact with you, you said, yeah, I'm there, I'm present. How important is that for you?
Oh, that's
to appear no matter where it is and what's going on,
Well, I consider myself a servant leader, and when you're a servant leader, you go to feel the need. And when you guys call me, and I applaud you all for putting it together on short notice, but I always, when somebody call me, I always, think about what can I do, and I'm real upfront with it. If I think I can do something, I will. If I tell you I can't, if I know I can't, I said I'll try. But when you called me, I knew that was something I could do. I know how important nutrition is to any family because that has been my biggest philanthropy here in the city. For the entire 17 years, I've done a food drive, which is now a food drive, a job fair, a job readiness program, a spay and neuter clinic, a community night. So this one day event has blossomed, but I'm always concerned about what happens to the least of us.
Right.
And at that moment, you guys, the thing that you did with the people being furloughed, it was very important that they have food. And
it did affect the Coast Guard as well. And we have the military base right there close to us. What are things that you try to do to actually stay in contact with like the military base, since it is in your district?
Yes.
You're in Fort Houston, you got the Coast Guard, Yorktown, So what are things you try to do to actually keep in contact with them and make sure that you're always there, even for the military?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I actually serve on the military council for the National League of Cities, and it covers the entire United States. So I've not been able to make a lot of inroads, but they invite me to events. I've been able to support their Women's Day program, their Hispanic Day programs, and whatever. And I go to a lot of the international parties and things that the base commander has. But now I'm trying to take a different role, and I need some people to help me. And I might be calling you guys since y'all military, but I need some people to help me because I'm finding that the greatest need for the people on the base who are actually retiring here is they don't know how to integrate themselves into our community. So I'm working with some other people, and now we have a retired colonel who works for the city of Newport News, he retired from this base. Wow. So he's helping me put together some kind of program to help do a better job of transitioning military veterans from the base out into the real world. It's very important. And one person, this really stands out for me because this is what I would not expect when I was campaigning last time. One guy just wanted to know where he could get tickets to go somewhere where he dressed up. He was a retired officer. He was used to dressing up, and when he said that, I'm like, of all the things that somebody asked me, you want to go to a party? And he said, yes, that's important to me. I have tuxedos, my wife has gowns, and we have nowhere to go. So if we expand our network with the base and include them as part of our community, I think we'll see a different outcome because there's so much knowledge on the base. These people, and all of the structure in the whole world is based on what the military does. Right. So we are hoping to partner a little bit more so we can bring some of that structure into our community.
Councilwoman, to the youth, specifically the young girls and women, what are some wisdom or word of advice that you can pass down to them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I always encourage young ladies to just think of your inner strength because we all have gifts and talents. It's better not to covet what somebody else is doing, but be your individual self and never feel the need to compete with another woman. I tell people I only compete with myself. I never look at somebody and say, oh, she's more beautiful than me. Oh, she got the nice husband. I don't have one. I don't get into those kinds of things. And I think that's what bring a lot of women down is some have low self-esteem. And when you have low self-esteem, you don't have much motivation. So I try to encourage young girls to be self-motivated and to hone in on the skills and the talents that God gave them. And to always have a support system because no one is an island. You can't live that way. And I try to talk to the young girls about modesty because I don't know, you guys wouldn't remember this, but back in the day when I was a girl, women didn't go out uncovered, you dressed a little more modest. And when I talk to young girls, I try to talk to them about being in the moment and knowing how to dress for the occasion and things that would make you marketable in the business world. It will make people in just the regular world like to enjoy your company because you're self-confident, you're yourself, you know how to dress when you go leave home. You wouldn't go to work with a tube top and some boot shorts. Right. And now back when I was younger, it was the taboo to show a lot of your parts. And now for the young girls, a breast is no different than a leg.
Yeah.
You know, a butt is no different than a hand. So, and so it takes a lot just to try to get them to see that, you know, whatever you see on TV is not actually reality, but in the world you live in is the reality that you need to live up to, and not try to strive to be like one of the Hollywood people you see on these reality shows. Yeah. And I think that some of the shows now have a bad influence on young ladies. So.
It kind of goes with that quote that I always used to tell my little sister, a flower doesn't compete with the flower next to it.
Right.
It just blossoms on its own.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And I mean, that's one that you really could use when you're talking to young ladies, because they do feel that need to compete.
So with all the things that have been happening, you know, recently with the shootings, you know, in Texas, Ohio, and just recently I think there was another shooting in Texas, if I'm mistaken.
You're right, about a week ago.
Yeah. So what are the things you're implementing in your district to keep the community safe from anything like that to happen in the communities?
Well, you know, that's actually a difficult thing to do when you're talking about crowds. And this city has a lot of events that there are a huge number of people. The Fall Festival coming up in October draws 10 or 20,000 people. Our Holly Dazzle event used to be 30,000 people. And then we have a lot of schools here, but our police department, our new chief, Steve Drew, they have done a phenomenal job or doing more community policing. So they're able to walk out instead of them riding around in their cars all day. Now they have to go into the community and get on their feet and walk around and talk to the neighbors and, you know, see what's going on. And in that way, they're able to get in front of a lot of things that could potentially happen. The school system have implemented new types of ID. So now you can't even get in a school building without showing some kind of ID of who you are. And before, now you cannot just walk into a school. Some of our public buildings now, you don't have direct access. You have to be let in, you know, buzz and let in. So we're doing everything we can, but you know, I tell people when they ask me, well, how am I going to stop crime? I can't. And this is because the nature of God gave us all free will, and the nature of people have changed so much that you cannot control human nature. But what we can do is try to educate. And we're doing a lot in the school system by educating, you know, the young people against violence and gun control and things like that. And we're still working with our legislators trying to get a better grasp on the gun control. But that's going to have to come from the federal government. That's not a local task that we can do. Our police department, they do a gun buyback. So what they do is they try to keep as many guns off the street so that they don't fall into the hands of somebody who shouldn't have them.
Do you agree with like concealed weapon carry?
I don't have a problem with
somebody has a permit.
I believe in the right to bear arms. I do think that there should be some scrutiny as to who can get those permits.
Like a more in-depth background check.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because that's part of the problem now. And I mean, for somebody to have an assault rifles, they should be banned. There's no reason for somebody to have an assault rifle unless they're overseas fighting for our freedom. You shouldn't be fighting here in our communities with an assault rifle. You know, so we're doing what we can, but sometimes it just doesn't seem like enough. And the police department, I mean, they have revised everything. They're trying to solve issues earlier. And unfortunately, for this reason, this region, this area especially, there is a lot of domestic violence. And that's where a lot of the shootings and violent crimes are coming through. Somebody that you actually live, eat, and sleep with, really. And then some of it is gang related, and it's a certain age demographic that is happening too. So that's why workforce development is supported, you know, so that people don't feel the need to go out and hustle to make money, that, you know, they can get training and skills to make enough money to take care of their family. So it's going to take a combination of things to thwart crime and to kind of diminish gun violence in itself.
Because I also noticed this community center itself, it's open at 12 o'clock at night, and I've never been to a community center that stays open that late.
Well, actually, we don't stay open that late every day, but if there's a special event, they can. Typically, it closes by 9:30. But let's say you have an event, or if you wanted to do, let's say you guys wanted to do a sleep-in for young boys, we would have it open around the clock. You know, so we are the community center is just that. We try to meet the needs of the community. And this place is booked out probably 6 to 8, 10 months.
But
in
I mean,
advance.
like before we got on there, he was saying that it's a smart strategy to keep it open, you know, till late, because that keeps people out of the streets,
Mm-hmm.
you know, out of trouble
Mm-hmm.
and out of, you know, doing anything, you know, that can potentially harm somebody else or something like that. So, how often do you at least would like to see or try to keep this community open? That way, you could keep people out off of the streets or something like that.
Ideally, I think Friday and Saturday should be extended hours, and I at some point my director, if he's listening, he's going to hear this first right now. But we have a meeting set up and with the city manager as well, and I think that the hours should be extended on the weekend, because on the weekend is when kids have more free time, and that's when they are looking to do something. And if they knew that they could come here, especially the males, they could come here and play basketball up until midnight on a Friday and Saturday night, I dare say this place would be packed, because sometimes I'm here and there's so many people here to play basketball, they don't even have enough opportunity to play for an extended period of time because there's so many people. So, and then we have an outdoor court in the back, but I don't think they use that as much as they do the indoor one,
No,
especially.
not with the heat playing.
Not with the heat. Yeah, run around and hyperventilate.
Are there any major projects for your district coming up?
Oh, coming up, we have just gotten a developer to look at one of the tracts of land on the northern end, close to Yorktown. We're going to develop 280 acres into upscale housing, because we don't have a lot of upscale new housing in Denby at all, and across the city actually. Most of the upscale housing is old. So it's an opportunity to build a new community, and right now we are in discussions to see what that should be. And when we hire somebody to do a development, we call it a public-private partnership. They actually do have to buy the land from us, but we do some things to make the deal attractive. But when they come in, they have to come in to build something that the city and the neighborhood and the community needs, not something that they want us to have.
So you get opportunities for somebody in the community to buy that land first before you branch out?
When we put out an RFP, it's for the best qualified person, so it doesn't have to be somebody from Newport News. They can be from anywhere. We're just looking for the best. Once in a while, we get lucky and the person is actually from Newport News. But this time, I think the company is from the South Side, Norfolk. So, at least they're in the area, so they know a little bit about the area. I think it's always difficult for somebody to come in from somewhere else to build for us, because you don't know the culture. You don't know the demographics. You don't know, where everything is. You don't know how you're going to tie that project into the community. So somebody having some sense of who we are and what we need is always important.
Do you, from the moment that you actually lived here, in the district, or, started running for office, what are the changes you have seen, from the moment you started to winning? What are the changes that you've seen happening throughout the district?
Mm-hmm. Well, this district, it has been cleaned up tremendously. We do a better job of community maintenance, and we have code enforcement, through their job. We try to make it attractive, because actually this district is a gateway to the city. Right. You come through York County and you land in the North District. And we haven't had a lot of infilling businesses, but what we have done, a lot of facade upgrade grants that we give to the community. So when you ride down the street and you see some of the businesses who have freshly painted fronts and manicured lawns, the city does a matching grant for them to get some of those projects done. So and this Stone and Run ball field behind us, this was here I think a year before I got on the council. So we have expanded that ball field. We're working on expanding the ball field. Passage Middle School,
Okay.
the only school in the city that's run by the fuel from the waste machine back here.
Yeah.
Back here. They have a lot of soccer programs and football programs. So we have a lot of kids in the North District. So we are trying to expand our what we consider park services, because all of the ball fields, the soccer fields, and everything comes under Parks and Recreation. So we've done a better job of that, and just try to do more things to engage the community as a whole.
Right.
Yes.
You know, it's funny because when I first got here to Virginia, I really didn't know what a council person was.
Right.
Regardless, you know,
Right.
councilwoman or councilman, I didn't even know what that was until I actually got to meet you.
Right.
Now, for those people who are probably asking, like, what do a council person do? Like, what is your daily job?
Well, as a council person, I actually participate in running the city and maintaining assets of the city. We make the rules, the laws. We decide where things are built, economic development. We generate tax revenue from property, from your home, your cars, and we use that revenue to make sure we provide a quality of life style here by investing in our first responders, the police, the fire department, the sheriff department, and we actually just decide the direction of the city and where we're going, you know, and not only are we looking at what happens here today, we're looking out 20 years, you know, and
right.
So we've done a lot of comprehensive planning, and now a lot of the planning committees, they are actually include citizens. So when you involve citizens, they can say what it is from a citizen's perspective, as opposed to what I see from my perspective. And we also serve as the fiduciary agents for like our waterworks department, which is actually a separate agency. They have their own budget, their own money, their own set of rules. But we are kind of their board of trustees, as well as the community service board and some other Newport's Redevelopment and Housing Authority. So we actually is at the top of everything that happens in this city, and or everything ride or die on our decisions.
I like that.
I was able to actually go into Representative Bobby Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to go to one of his town hall.
meetings.
Yeah, it was healthcare. When
Yes,
he was
yes.
speaking about the healthcare, he
Yeah.
was in the elementary. I forgot the name of the elementary school. But me and my wife were able to actually go and see him speak. How important is town halls for you guys as politicians and as people who actually work for the community?
They're very important because, you know, most people, a formal meeting, they're not comfortable attending a formal meeting. But if you would notice when you went to the town hall, which, you know, mine is right in the community center every fourth Monday, that there's an exchange of information. So, you know, our meetings are pretty much flexible to the point where you can ask anything and we respond on the spot. That's not what you get at a formal meeting. You come and ask a question, we'll let you know we're gonna get back with you.
Right.
But at a town hall meeting, it's an exchange of information, not just us feeding you. So when we host town hall meetings, we want to hear what the community has to say.
Right.
And we want to give you some information that would empower you and let you know, pretty much what we are doing to try to help you meet your needs in the community. So I enjoy a good town hall meeting. Matter of fact, the last one I had here, it usually runs about 90 minutes, and at 9 o'clock, the people were still talking. So I looked up at the clock, I said, well, you all don't have to go home, but we do have to leave here.
Right.
So sometimes the conversations are
They get
so
intense. They really,
energized, riveted, passion, all of those things shine through from a person who comes to the meeting because they're concerned about what's going on.
And I noticed that with the town hall that I went with Bobby Scott.
Yes.
There was just a lot of people. It was touchy too, because healthcare is very important and it's a really touchy subject. And I seen. It was my first town hall, so
it was a good.
It was a really good experience. Going to that town hall and actually seeing people either testify on certain things or just talking about their story and what's going on with their life and their health care, their issues. You just see how crazy it is. But it does get intense. So I am with you with that. It gets intense. Me and my wife, we were sitting down and we was just like. Wow.
Yeah, I should have participated.
Crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy.
Yes.
So, Councilwoman, you are responsible for representing the needs of the district. You just say that you do have town halls every fourth Monday.
Every fourth Monday, except December and July.
You mind sharing some of the needs of these individuals that came to you personally?
Well, when people come here, they're concerned about, of course, crime is at the top of the list. Sometimes it's different events that are going on in their neighborhood, like parking situations. It could be as much as dilapidated properties in their community that are going, unnoticed, that people are just ignoring, they're not there. so code violations. We have a lot of parking on the grass situations because when people complain about that, they don't want to be living beside somebody with 5 cars on the front of their house. And education is always a big concern, what's happening in the school system, but for educational questions, we do refer them back to the school board. They are elected officials also. And we provide funding for the school system, but we don't have any purview over their actions.
Right.
Which, it's kind of strange. They should be raising their own money. But, and then a lot of people come, they're talking about, when are you going to provide more opportunities for our youth, things for them to do, places for them to go. A lot of them are concerned about what type of things are happening in our parks, and access and things of that nature. So it's a myriad of questions. You never know what you're gonna get. You never know how many people are gonna show up. It can be 20 people one week, and the next week is 120 people. Yeah. So, but this, I must say this, and then I'll answer your other question. I'm really just humbled that people have supported a meeting. I was the first person to ever hold these meetings in this city. Wow. And I'm just humbled that people have come the entire 17 years, and they've never missed a beat.
Yeah, they really care about the community.
Yes, and I do appreciate that support, because I always tell people, you send me to advocate for you, so if I don't know your need, I can't advocate for you. Right. So, yeah, some take that for granted, and others, they say, I'm going to take it as an opportunity. So,
do we have a summer program for, like, the youth? I know when I was growing up, we had this program where we'll have like the community come, not the community, just a couple people to come, and like they'll cook little small meals, probably like hot dogs, give out chips. And it's kind of like having in this community center, but they kind of like feed the kids, and it gives them a reason to just not be wandering off. It's mostly for the younger ones. Do we have anything implemented like that?
The community center doesn't feed in the summer, but we do have other churches, other programs, the Boys and Girls Club, all of those.
Like that.
Yeah. They get the it's a USDA summer feeding program, so they get the benefit from that. But what we do is try to get the people who are doing it to put out a list so that people who need it will know where they can find it.
Right.
But the community center itself, no, we don't even have the capacity here. We don't have a kitchen, so.
Is there funding set aside for the youth for things such as summer jobs?
We did a summer, it was a summer training enrichment program, and that's what we did for the last, I think, 5 years. And what that program does is try to teach people how to work. So you could be anywhere from 16 to 24 to be in that summer enrichment training program. And now we're trying to transition it a little bit more, because we found that we were getting kids who, some of them, they were just home for the summer from college. They didn't really need this, but they were getting the money. So we're trying to tailor that a little bit differently in the upcoming years to make sure we're reaching the population who needs it the most. And can you imagine being 22 years old and never worked? So it would be.
I work a lot of them out there.
We work for a lot of them.
Really, so that would be kind of scary for a person who's 22 and I've never worked, and I don't know how to work. I don't know that I need to show up on time. I don't know that I have to do what the boss said. I don't know how to work with, other people. I don't know how to do teamwork,
That sense of responsibility is not there.
Yeah, it's not there. So, and they've never seen a check, so they don't know how to bank. They don't know how to do anything. So we're trying to address some of those needs now with that summer training program. But there was also another program this summer called Spark. And this program ran most of the summer, where kids could go to school like every day, and half of the day would be a structured educational component, and the other half of the day would be like learning life skills, learning to communicate, learning tolerance, learning how to be self-motivated. It was self-help kind of stuff. So, right. And that was thousands of kids. I don't know, I'm gonna say maybe 6,000 to 8,000 kids did that this summer.
Do you plan on running again whenever your term is over?
Well, I'm gonna have to get a sign from God. Just for today, no. In 3 years, I'll be 66 years old. It's time to go home.
A little young.
I thought you was in your 30s.
Oh, I hate look. My mind feels that way, but my body tells me differently. So no, I never saw politics as a career,
Right.
and I saw it as an opportunity to impact change, and I believe I have made an impact across the city, not just for my district, but across the city. Now I think it's my responsibility to kind of engage young people like yourselves to get you all on the track of looking around your community to see, okay, what am I going to eventually want to do to make my impact on the world, on my community, my city where I live. So I am looking at starting some kind of millennial empowerment group, because I have some people talking to me and they've asked me to get engaged. I just haven't had time. And to get young people involved in government so that, you know, when the time comes for them to step up in their rightful place, that they will have some sense of what that responsibility is and what it takes to galvanize the community, and you know, and they will have some sense of leadership, you know, because
and not be a Facebook politician.
Absolutely, a tweeting politician. And I always tell people, if you're a leader with no followers, you're just a person going for a walk. So you don't ever want to be that person, because if people send you to lead, they expect you to lead. So you know, give them a chance to hone their leadership skills, and you know, just look at your own abilities. I always tell people we all can't do the same thing, but everybody can color your spot. Right. So find your spot and color your spot. And right now, this is my spot. So I try to color as much. But the only other seat I would consider is Congress, and right now Congressman Robert C. Scott is the congressman, 3rd District congressman. He is my congressman. But at some point, and I do say this publicly, and I joke with him, I tell him, when you get ready to retire, don't get rid of your signs, because it's going to be Scott for Congress. So that would be the only other elected position I would consider. Regardless of what people say, they try to get me run for mayor, they want me to look at lieutenant governor. I'm not interested. I'm interested in right now maybe getting in the background and doing some things behind the scenes.
Now, before we go off air, and this was a great discussion and a great conversation, to be honest. I'm actually happy that you even said yes to coming on the podcast. You're the first politician to actually come on.
I'm an elected official. I don't like politics. I always tell people I'm not a politician. I'm an elected official. I don't horse trade.
So before we go off air, let the audience and people who are watching on Facebook Live know any events that are coming up, anything that they should be watching for on your behalf.
Coming up soon, October 5th is, I think it's the first weekend in October is Harvest Fest at the Newport News Park, which is one of the largest events here if you're looking for something exciting to do. Denby Day is on September 21st. There's a huge parade. I mean, a lot of people come out. It's a great opportunity just to network and meet people, and it culminates over at the Courthouse Way Community Center, where they have a big festival during the day. That's an exciting time. I guess football season for the high schools. It started up sooner already, in fact. And let me see what else is going on. I think on the 28th there is a Hispanic Awareness Day, where they actually have soccer tournaments and things, and these activities will be back here at Stone Run. But more importantly, I would encourage everybody, if you want to know what's going on in the city of Newport News, major events, go to the website. The city has Facebook, it has Twitter. You can also check out my Facebook page at Sharon P. Scott, and I do tweet at Councilwoman S. And but more importantly, if you check the website, if you are in the city of Newport News, I also encourage you to subscribe to Newport News Now, which is a newsletter that the city sends out on a daily basis. And it also gives you an idea of what's going on in the community and some of the things that have been done that we think is important to the citizens who live here. So it's a lot going on. But
well, you heard it here at the Independent Hustle Podcast.